Tonight, we are not beginning with a mighty emperor, a legendary battle, or a forgotten philosopher whose beard was longer than his list of achievements. No, tonight we are beginning with something much smaller. Something that every human being has experienced at least once, and something that, in medieval Europe, inspired a level of terror usually reserved for invading armies and divine punishment. Tonight, we are talking about teeth. Not modern teeth, protected by toothpaste, dentists, and advertisements featuring impossibly cheerful people who seem suspiciously excited about flossing. No, we're talking about medieval teeth. The kind that cracked on bread harder than stone. The kind that slowly rotted while priests explained that suffering brought you closer to God. The kind that, once they started hurting, left you with two options: prayer, or a man whose medical qualifications consisted mainly of owning a pair of pliers. So before we begin, perhaps take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy these strange little journeys through history. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always wonderful to imagine all of us scattered across different countries, united by insomnia and curiosity. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that gentle background hum. Get comfortable. And together, let's travel back 800 years, to a world where a toothache wasn't merely annoying. It was a nightmare. Imagine opening your eyes sometime around the year 1250. There are no alarms, no smartphones, no emails demanding impossible things before breakfast. Only the sound of chickens, distant church bells, and perhaps your neighbor arguing with a pig for reasons that probably made perfect sense at the time. You rise from a bed stuffed with straw and questionable life choices. Outside, the village slowly wakes. Smoke rises from chimneys. Dogs bark. People prepare for another day of farming, trading, and trying not to die from something embarrassing. Life expectancy isn't exactly generous. If you reach 40, people begin treating you like an ancient sage. By 50, you're practically a miracle. And through all of this, one thing remains surprisingly universal. Everyone hates tooth pain. Breakfast arrives. Perhaps some coarse bread. Maybe cheese. If fortune smiles upon you, a little ale. Because water, unfortunately, has an unfortunate habit of killing people. Nobody knows about bacteria. Nobody knows about cavities. Nobody understands plaque. Science is still busy arguing over how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. And so, when teeth begin hurting, people search for explanations. Naturally, they conclude that tiny worms live inside them. Yes, worms. According to medieval medicine, invisible little creatures gnawed away inside your mouth, causing agony. And honestly, considering how pain seemed to come out of nowhere, it's hard to blame them. Without microscopes, worms sounded perfectly reasonable. Far more reasonable, perhaps, than believing microscopic organisms were throwing tiny parties on your molars. Doctors across Europe eagerly embraced this theory. Some prescribed smoking herbs to suffocate the worms. Others recommended strange oils. A few advised placing hot metal near the affected tooth, which sounds less like medicine and more like revenge. Still, desperate people tried everything. Because pain has always made humanity creative, and occasionally stupid. Entire books were written explaining how to remove these imaginary worms. One remedy suggested burning henbane seeds over hot coals and allowing the smoke to enter the mouth. Supposedly, the worms would crawl out. Strangely enough, people often claimed success. Mostly because henbane is mildly toxic and made them hallucinate, which means they probably saw the worms. Unfortunately, seeing something and it being real are two very different things. But medieval medicine rarely allowed facts to interfere with confidence. And confidence they had plenty of. Meanwhile, daily life itself was conducting a war against your teeth. Bread was filled with tiny grains of stone from primitive mills. Every bite slowly wore away enamel. People chewed tough meat, hard nuts, dried fruits, and if you happened to be wealthy enough to enjoy imported sugar, congratulations. You had successfully purchased your own suffering, because sugar, still rare and expensive, was becoming the luxury that quietly destroyed noble smiles. Ironically, peasants often had healthier teeth than kings, not because they brushed more, but because they couldn't afford enough sweetness to ruin them. Imagine being a lord in a magnificent castle. You dine beneath candles. Musicians play softly. Servants present roasted pheasant and honey cakes. You wear velvet. Everyone bows when you enter. And yet, in the middle of this glorious feast, one tooth begins throbbing. First, you ignore it. By midnight, you cannot sleep. By dawn, you're bargaining with God. By the next evening, you'd happily trade half your lands for 10 minutes without pain. And that's when someone says the words every medieval person dreaded. We should fetch the barber. Ah yes, the barber. One of history's greatest examples of professional multitasking. He shaved faces, cut hair, pulled teeth, set broken bones, amputated limbs, applied leeches, and probably gave fashion advice while doing all of it. Modern people separate professions. The Middle Ages preferred efficiency. Why have 5 specialists when one man with questionable hygiene and terrifying confidence could do everything? Barber surgeons traveled from village to village carrying leather bags full of instruments that looked less like medical tools and more like devices invented by someone deeply offended by humanity. Iron forceps, hooks, saws, needles, knives, no anesthesia, no sterile gloves, no antibiotics, and yet somehow these men considered themselves professionals, which, to be fair, they were, compared to everyone else. Picture yourself sitting on a stool in the village square. Neighbors gather, children stare, an old woman mutters prayers. Someone places a cup of wine in your hand. Not enough to remove pain, just enough to make the entire experience slightly surreal. The barber approaches. He smells faintly of tobacco, blood, and confidence. Always confidence. He smiles, which somehow makes everything worse. He examines your mouth, nods thoughtfully, and without warning, grabs, pulls, twists. The pain explodes like lightning. You scream. The dog starts barking. A chicken flees in panic. Someone faints. And after several horrifying seconds, the barber triumphantly raises a bloody tooth like a victorious hunter. The crowd applauds, because entertainment in the Middle Ages was limited, and watching another human survive unimaginable pain counted as a decent afternoon. If you're lucky, the correct tooth came out. If you're unlucky, well, perhaps the wrong one. Or 2. Or 3. Accuracy was considered more of an aspiration than a requirement. Some patients died from infections, others from blood loss. A few simply fainted and woke up considerably less enthusiastic about dentistry. Yet somehow life continued, because humans are stubborn creatures. They always have been, and perhaps that's the strangest thing about history. Not kings, not wars, not castles, but ordinary people. People who endured things that would make modern humans file complaints before lunchtime. People who survived plagues, famines, winters, invasions, and terrible medical advice. People who woke each morning knowing life would hurt, yet continued anyway. And somewhere, in a small village illuminated only by candles and hope, another poor soul was clutching his jaw, praying, sweating, listening to church bells in the distance, and watching a cheerful barber sharpen his tools. Because in medieval Europe, there were many terrifying sounds. The howl of wolves, the approach of enemy soldiers, the ringing of plague bells, but perhaps none inspired more immediate dread than the words, "Hold still, this won't hurt for very long." And unfortunately, that was usually true.